I think we all, don't need to go into this in great detail. That sex sells. You make your character more attractive. You're targeting a specific audience, but the actual the numbers of the hypersexualized avatars are really what I want to discuss. So for females, the breasts are 33% bigger than your average person. For both males and females, your legs are 33% longer than on average. It's an increase of height. Females often wear some kind of like high-heeled shoe to increase the height. Why? I mean, besides the obvious sex sells, why are we making your character taller, do you think? Any idea? So tall, powerful, right? You might be taller than the other characters. It's kind of a sense of control over the game. You have this character that is abnormally tall, abnormally powerful, abnormally exaggerated. It kind of lets you do things in the game that you wouldn't be able to do in real life. You can't be, a 6'6" muscle man with blazing machine guns in real life, but you can live that out in the game.
With enough steroids, you can.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so what I would like you to do is on your computer or get out a piece of paper or something, why don't we take 2 minutes and summarize 1 or 2 key points that I just talked about here. Go.
Done.
All right, take a minute to finish up. All right, who wants to share one of their points? Somebody we haven't heard from yet today. Any of the things that we talked about so far that you think were important? All right, how about we hear from the 3 people in the back row there? So one of the points that you thought was important.
Probably the biggest thing is whether or not you could see your character. I thought whether it was just like a complete representation of yourself or whether or not like it has its own character himself that you could see and can try and control, but whether or not he'd actually listen to you was probably the biggest thing for me.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, next.
You went over whether or not you're just selecting an avatar or customizing it or constructing it from scratch.
Okay, good. And last?
Went over like if gender was a key factor in gameplay or whatnot. And
Okay,
I thought
good.
it was kind of interesting with 33% like taller and whatnot. That was interesting. I know that.
All right, great. So that was kind of the evolution of the avatar. Let's talk about the social implications. Why do people like making avatars? What kind of are the real-life consequences? Avatars, how are they related to us? So this is a picture of Habitat, which was an interesting research project. It was one of the first really good research areas on MMOs. It was done 20 years ago, so not the first MMO, but one of the first graphical MMOs to be studied. We'll talk about that a little bit. Okay, so avatars as masks. I will posit that people use avatars as masks. What do you think I mean by that? Yep.
People will represent themselves as the character.
Great. Yes. So you can't physically interact with the other players and the game, so you need to kind of create some kind of proxy for that. But the avatar is not kind of working on his own right unless you do like The Sims, but then you can still have intercession. It's really kind of a stand-in for you and follows your actions a lot of the time. Also, the avatar places constraints on the player's actions. We talked about that with the D&D a little bit. The attributes kind of influence your gameplay, and that may or may not be how you can really act in life. So you may be a really strong athlete in life, but choose like a weak avatar physically. So that's interesting that people can kind of choose their forte and their strengths, and that may or may not match up with how they are in real life. We talked about choosing the features of an avatar, how people really like to do that, and we talked about how you can have, you can curate a short Asian character or whatever you like. You can choose to have it as kind of a representation of yourself. You know, if you play The Sims, you can make what your character really looks like, or you can make what you would like him to look like. And we talked about, you know, a third of the time or something in Mass Effect, you're looking at your character. So you want the player to be able to choose an avatar that they don't mind looking at for hours upon end for gameplay. And the avatar kind of allows for a fresh start for the player. So regardless of kind of your life or your social life outside the game, you can go on an MMO and you're a blank slate. You're a new player, right? You can build kind of whatever reputation you want. Even in RPGs, you know, you could be kind of a law-abiding citizen, which is a good thing, right? But you can go around and kill every NPC you want. Mass Effect, you can be a renegade. You can blow up the other aliens and take revenge if you'd like. You kind of have the ability to choose whatever lifestyle you want. So we get back to Habitat here. A question they asked is, the avatar an extension of the human being or a critter designed to die 1,000 deaths? So how shall we treat the avatar? You know, with respect, do we realize that when we're playing World of Warcraft, every person kind of, well, except for, you know, the naughty computer-controlled robots, they represent a human being. So do the game designers realize that, and they kind of allow the avatars to kind of grow and nurture them, or are they in the mindset that this is a game, this is not the player? If I put a pit trap full of spikes, you know, in this spot, and the player steps on it and dies and needs to spend 10 minutes getting back to his body, well, that's the kind of game he signed up for, right? What do you guys think? Is it just kind of a playing piece, like a bishop or a pawn in Sorry, or is it kind of a manifestation of a human being?
Well, in the more persistent games, I usually try and like keep myself alive and everything as if it were actually me. Like, I don't want anything bad to happen to that character.
Right.
But then in the single-player ones, I don't really feel like it matters as much, so, like, I'll learn by dying a lot and just be like, well, now I know not to do that, even though, realistically, you only get one shot at it.
Okay, good. Any other thoughts? All right. So, again, getting back to exploring the relationship between the avatar and the player. I read some kind of a research paper that kind of introduced a few provocative topics on MMOs. So they recommended you track the behavior of the avatar/player online. And that has come to pass, basically, right? We have a reputation system in a lot of games. That's a way of tracking behavior. If you repeatedly use hack software or steal from players or behave poorly, that can manifest itself on your character's profile. One of the interesting things they said was, well, we're running a business, we're designing a game, perhaps better paying customers are allowed more infractions, right? So, I mean, it really sucks for the other people in the game that this person is stealing their kills, but maybe he's buying a premium account and bringing in 3 times the money of anybody else. So allow the better paying customers more infractions. What do you guys think about that?
Kind of unfair.
Kind of unfair, yeah. Have any of you played games where there's like a tiered system, like if you unlock a gold account, you get like better weapons or something like that? That's kind of related to that. So we're catering to the better paying customers. So not necessarily a right or wrong way to approach that, but I think it brings up the point that these people are running a business. They're here to make money in addition to pleasing the customers, right? It's great to run a free game, but they're not going to get paid that way. So perhaps we kind of have a favoritism system in place. So I think it's not possible to discuss avatars in any real sense without talking about them in the massively multiplayer online role-playing game arena. So show of hands, how many people play MMOs? All right, so a good many of you. World of Warcraft or other ones?
Used to play WoW, but mostly now EVE Online.
Okay, yeah, so World of Warcraft or WoW is probably the most popular one. It's kind of a snowballing effect. It's the most popular, so it gets the most attention. It gets the most development, so it's the most popular. A very large following online. We have, is this like a dark elf or a night elf or something?
Night elf.
Night elf, okay. So getting back to kind of the functional and cosmetic attributes, they're not just something I made up. Look, they're on the character profile. So this is the armory. And because I had to zoom out to get the whole picture, you don't see the whole guy. It was interesting. I just tapped the keyboard for some random characters, and apparently there's a character named CS, so go figure. So we have a mix of cosmetic and functional attributes here. We have the player's name, their appearance. Both of those are kind of cosmetic. Their history or experience, so we can say the Lich King, 3 Lich King escapes. So we got away from that Lich King real good. I don't know if there's a reputation on this page, but is there a reputation actually implemented in World of Warcraft? Anybody that knows?
It's been a while, but you have reputation with the different factions. Like, as you do things for one, your standing with them will go up, but with their enemy, it may go down.
Okay, but that doesn't really...
Not as far as player to player.
Okay.
Other than word of mouth, or he's with a famous guild, there's no game-wise reputation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I know in some MMOs the reputation is a system. And some, I think this is more in text-based games, but you can write like an autobiography, a little bit about your character, like in the theme of the game. All right, so here's what we're going to do now. Partner up in groups of 2 or 3, and please read this little paragraph. This is a 2001 study on EverQuest. And the researcher who has never done an MMO has been kind of experimenting, trying new characters, gathering some research. And here, this male researcher picks a female character. And partner up and read this and decide whether you think gender is a functional attribute after all, as opposed to a cosmetic one. So let's take a few minutes now to do that. All right, so got a group of 3 here, group of 2. I got a couple of people.